Hey all, this is Tempest, and I just wanted to throw one more Norroth video in here. This is a video um, kind of about analytics in general, telling a story with data, trying to understand trends and breakdowns by looking at data, specifically user data, to try to understand what's going on in a game. Now, this is something that ideally developers would have a dashboard like this, seeing how far players are progressing, where they're getting stuck. It can help a lot when you have some analytics like this, where you should be putting your development effort in order to remove blockers or choke points, or places where folks are really dropping off. Um, just kind of case in point, in the last few weeks, the developer implemented Smart Look just on the first map. And if you're aware of that map, it's only about 20 tiles. It's not very much of the game, and that was apparently the only map the developer was looking at. That's not going to paint a very good, very accurate picture of a drop-off point. There wasn't really any choice to be made, or encounter or combat or anything like that. So it's hard to measure what exactly is going on in just one map. So I do want to throw a caveat out there. This is the account data for 2,900 Norroth accounts. This is entirely pulled completely legally within the terms of service and everything like that. All the data I'm presenting here was publicly available to every single user of the game. So just want to throw that out there before anyone is concerned about how I accumulated the data or anything like that. All of this data is out there, or this is data as of this is probably about a month old or so. I'll probably just give a little probably about a month old. It does not include anything after the latest patch. So it doesn't include any user accounts within the last couple weeks since the Facebook ads have started up again. But it does include a lot of Facebook ads, ad accounts from the previous campaigns. So anyway, another thing I want to say is I'm not necessarily the point of this is to educate you as players about what developers can be looking for and how we're thinking about player trends and behaviors in the game. It's not necessarily, this isn't, I'm not trying to drag on Norroth with this video. Just unfortunately, I have to say that. So I do want to say that over the couple of years that Norroth has been around in its latest iteration, the game's been kind of on development for almost like 10 years, but in its latest iteration, it's accumulated 2,900 accounts. 118 of those have no characters at all. So someone just signed up for the account but didn't even bother creating a character. Okay. This next number is pretty big. 1,745. So 1,745 accounts are day zero accounts. They were created. Maybe they created a character, but then they never came back. These accounts, someone created and then never logged back in on it. So single session. So this is a pretty good metric right here. These are people that maybe they logged back in, but they didn't come back within 24 hours, right? Or sorry, beyond 24 hours. So something didn't hook them, and that, as a game developer, we'd want to see that number come down with each kind of marketing effort or kind of wave of development. We'd want to see more people engaged. With account age, now this is calculated by the time the account was created versus the last time they logged in. So what I mean by this is let's see, out of all the accounts, I'll start at the end here because this is kind of the easiest one to explain. We have 15 accounts that are 24 months old that are still active, and by active I mean people have kind of the time between when the account was created and when they last logged in. We have 15 that have essentially been playing for 24 months. We have 136 accounts that have been playing for 12 months. And I do want to caveat by this by saying these could just be older players that check back in for a day. That would reset your last login, right? So this isn't necessarily 136 people that are diligently playing every day. This is just 136 accounts that are at least 12 months old that have logged back in within that 12 months. 354 that are 6 months, 249 that are a month, and then 284 that the account was created and then 1 to 3 days elapsed and then they never logged in again. So these may be people that are either very fresh when this data was read, or people that are sort of in that day zero kind of group. They tried it and within a day or two logged back in and then never again. So if I was the developer, what I'd like to say here, there's a couple different ways you could further break down this information. This right here doesn't log in. Actually, this next section will even further explain these numbers. But if I was the developer, what I'd want to make sure to do is reach back out to older accounts and maybe even look at when this last login happened, because that based off the last login and your current kind of like release schedule, you can better market to those players what exactly they've missed since your last login. So a player that hasn't logged in 6 months has missed the last release, has missed the job board, has missed guilds, right? If they've been more than 9 months, then they're missing dailies as well, and probably tier 5, right? And so you can better send out better marketing when you understand when your players dropped off. What was the issue perhaps at that time that caused those players to not continue to play? This next section is your last login. And so here is kind of when we talk about the active player base, how many people are actually logging in. So we had 43 players log in today, right? So not today of June 24th, but when this data was taken over a month ago, we had 43 accounts log in that day. So that includes the staff, includes in the developer, includes in your regular group of people. So this game, it also includes everyone that created an account that day. So you're probably looking, because we do see a lot of accounts created and then not actually play. I'd probably say we could dig into that 43, and I'd probably say you have about 30 active daily players that are going to come back the day after and day after and day after. We have 6 players that had logged in 2 to 3 days before that, 17 within the last week, and 77 within the last month. And those are unique. So like members that are in the 43 category there for today aren't counted again in those other columns. So again, as a game developer, your daily active users, your DAU, DAU is a metric that is common in online games, social games. It's how you measure engagement. You want a higher number. So what we'd be looking at if you were going to do any sort of marketing effort is how do we, and things like dailies help encourage your daily number to go back up. Daily quests, weekly quests, recurring events, things like that. We want to be asking the question and even reaching out specifically to these people that they haven't logged in within a week or even a month. Why not? what can we do to market specifically to those players. They've seen your latest content. They were playing then. What's going on? So that's sort of at the account level of Norroth, what's going on. I want to point out that a big reason for this difference between total accounts and the amount of accounts, the vast majority, or not maybe, let me see, vast majority. I would say the majority of accounts created are not players, unfortunately, right? Like they're not continuing on or anything like that. From what I understand, Norroth isn't really advertised anywhere outside of Facebook. It was mentioned originally on Reddit and some other online games, which is how I came across it, but that wasn't the developer's choice. That was his partner at the time. He had reached out to those communities. The developer seems to rely solely on Facebook, which is okay, but I would question if Facebook is the right audience for this game, because these numbers, I'm not exactly sure that we're seeing the engagement that you really want with marketing effort, especially because you're running ads. He's paying for every single one of these, right? You have to keep that in mind with an ad, not just a Facebook page, but with an ad, and that's what's bringing in these players. You're paying for every click. And it's unfortunate because there's plenty of free advertisement out there that are hubs of players. Plenty of ways to get your game out there and get traffic to your game for free. That they may not necessarily sign up, but perhaps they may be better. I don't know personally how many people go to Facebook in order to find the next new game, right? So. That's accounts. Now I want to talk about characters. So keep in mind, an account can have multiple characters. Most accounts will just have one, obviously, and then some of them have multiple. So of all the characters in the game, we've got about 1,100 as level 1. So this is when we talk about engagement and how much people are playing the game, where the drop off is happening. These right here are the most important numbers, right? So it's not about like, this is where I'm a little bit, it's funny about, how our smart looks being used. I didn't even need to use through a third party analytical software to see the trend of Norroth and what's happening with the characters. You have 1,171 level 1 characters, which means they pretty much haven't made it more than like maybe 2 maps, because you gain a level in the very first couple combats you do, right? With the Sasquatches in the cave. So we have 562 level 2 characters, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, by the time you hit El Caspar, you're basically like level 3. So these are people that maybe tried combat and then quit. Tried combat a couple times and then quit. Didn't really make it through the Sasquatch cave. And then level 3, these are people that probably, maybe made it through the Sasquatch cave, maybe made it to El Caspar, maybe, but boom, just dropped off. I mean, those are huge numbers there, the levels, and how many people did not proceed. Like, I'm actually talking to a player right now who started the game within the last 24 hours. He already has a level 16 character, and I think his mage is getting there as well. So that's someone who is actively playing hours today and yesterday. But these players didn't really play the game, right? So again, just to help form a statement, and again, I'm not making fun of Norroth. The point of this stuff is to better understand the data so that you can improve your game and make a better game. The 1,700 day zero accounts of people that did not engage, and then you look at these character levels, and it's like, here it is, right? Here's the story. You have a bunch of people that sign up on day 1. They're playing a certain amount of time. right? And then dropping off. So it's, excuse me, you're not probably getting too much drop off at the well. You're probably getting your biggest amount of drop off in the Sasquatch Cave, which means, wait for it, combat. And unfortunately, I think fundamentally combat didn't change, especially for a level 1 player, because you don't have that much stuff, you don't have that much gear to do. So just to point that out. Now I broke down all the characters in the game into the tiers. So if you're familiar with this, these are like 5 level blocks, right? 0 to 5, or 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, or something like that, right? These are all the characters in the game. There are 31 tier 5 characters that have maxed out their combat, right? They're level 30, right? 40 tier 4, that's where my character sits. Then 54, and then you start seeing the tier 2, the 106, the 228, and the 2500. So those are characters that are level 1 to 5. Let me just double check my math on that. Yeah. So the vast majority of players played less than maybe half an hour or an hour. It doesn't take that long to get to level 5 if you do a couple quests and some combat. So that's where it is. That is the drop off of the player base. You have a ton of accounts that have just not engaged, have not really played that much at all. Feel like what's going on with tier 1 and tier 2, a small portion of that are going to be new players that are moving up through the tiers. The vast majority of that are older accounts that gave the game a try and played through to a certain point and stopped. What you have, tier 4 and 5 is pretty much where the core player base is right now, right? And we talked about how there were like 43 logins today. 30 of that is probably your actual core players. There they are. Your tier 4, your tier 5, right? Some of what's happening too in the tier 1 and tier 2 are going to be alts, right? I have a level 6 alt. I have so that's going to be counted as tier 1, and then I do have a few tier 0 alts that are just for inventory purposes, mules. So the vast majority of your player base is sitting up here, the vast majority of your active player base. And I could cross-reference the active players and where their characters are, right? But I didn't. But you could do that, and that would give you another dimension of the data to look at. So where the players are sitting right now is your tier 5 and your tier 4. What we'd want to do is figure out why people aren't progressing or where they're dropping off at, right? What are the choke points? Is the combat between tier 2 and 3 too difficult? Are the mobs unbalanced, etc.? Where is that, and how could we balance the game, add more quests, or whatever rewards that would boost experience or something like this to help people proceed up their character development. And it's interesting stuff. You can look in as well. When is it? Where have people gotten to with their first character when they purchase that second character slot? When are they deciding? And this is an interesting thing to just think about monetization and player engagement. When are you convincing them that they need a second slot in the game? Are they getting a character up to tier 2? The player that I referenced earlier that I actually helped him get his second character soulstone today. I had one in the inventory. He got up to, I think, level 16, so he's just there just at the beginning of a tier 3 character, and then he's like, okay, now I want my second character, right? So that's an important metric that a game developer should be looking at. Where am I getting that sort of engagement? And then here's some other things just to point out progress-wise. So looking at sort of how far people are getting out of, and I think generally these numbers are all telling a pretty good story here. Just about 650 characters reached just the first town. and only about 118 went beyond that. And beyond that, I mean that they reached another town that gave an achievement. So how I'm measuring progress is by looking at what achievements are on the account. So only 658 are sitting there with the El Caspar achievement. Now, if you visited another town, you have a different achievement as your town discovery wanted. So that's why you're being counted in the 118. So out of 2,900 accounts, only 118 have really made it beyond El Caspar to a second city. Okay, so that's, essentially 1 in 30 people that have an account. You are getting about there. I mean, there it is. You have 650 people that made it to El Caspar and then didn't go beyond it. So, out of your, and you can tell the difference here. Of the 2,900, I'm only accounting for about 780 people. So you have 2,200 people that never made it to El Caspar, right? I can tell how far this many people, and this, I just want to keep this in mind. The developer, if he made a dashboard, would be able to see even more information in the database to see where on what specific map people are when they've last logged in or since they've last logged in, right? Here I'm just looking at achievements, and still how much can I infer? Do I know it? Absolutely no. But that's the story of big data and analytics. We look at the data, we try to interpret it, we try to tell a story with the data and try to see what's going on. So I would say there's a huge opportunity here in terms of engagement with your player base. And then this last one I thought was interesting. These are pretty much basically because again the game is microtransactions. It's similar to games where you identify a few whales that are funding the free-to-play game, right? It's a free-to-play game. Well, the game is free because a few people are going to spend a ton of money, and it's designed to sink a ton of money so that the rest of the folks can play for free. Now, there's not an achievement for actually buying, like spending money, but there is an achievement for spending Norroth coins. So I do want to call out that free-to-play players can earn these achievements. But what I'm going to say is that at least for the first 3 categories here, the only way you've accumulated and spent 25,000 Norroth coins or more is if you've actually purchased some as well. Because that would be 250 Norroth coin packs off the market, which would be an enormous amount of gold, which is very, very, very unlikely. So I'm going to assume, and I don't think I'm incorrect in this assumption, that if you're on this list right here, you have put actual money into the game, right? So we have a couple of real top spenders, Noodle and Triple B. Platinum, Mad Noob, and Zortrox. And one of the things that I was curious about was because when Mad Noob started, he bought a ton and then started spending, and I was just curious where he ranked amongst the others that have spent. And there's me in the third column. I did pitch in and buy a ton. Excuse me. And then silver. So just to keep that in mind, out of the 2,900 accounts, here are the people that have given money. And so this is just good to keep in mind, and why, just from a player's point of view, for players' information, microtransaction games are designed for this sort of behavior. Out of thousands of accounts, you have a couple dozen people who are willing to pay money. And so you need to design your game in such a way that these top folks can spend and spend and spend, right? If you cap it, right? If you say, hey, you can only put in like $100 or whatever, you're not going to earn very much because you would have capped yourself at a small amount of revenue for the amount of people that are willing to actually put in money here. And looking at the accounts, these are pretty much the folks that have stuck around. And I just want to also point out that this group on here are a great deal of staff and former staff. So these are people that decided to get really close to the developer. Several of them, not all of them, but several of them pretty comfortable with the developer. And so that was good. These people decided that it was fine to donate to the game, and I was one of them. I did it, of course, because the game is designed to be difficult until you pay. It's designed to have frustration until you pay. That was the limited inventory. You have to pay to expand your inventory, pay to expand your stash, and pay for additional characters. So the game got and the stacking. You can only have 100 of an item in a slot. Well, my character has 1,500 stack size. The game gets incredibly more easy and comfortable and fun to play once you unlock those benefits. So anyway, just wanted to conclude this, give a little bit of an overview and an example of storytelling with when looking at data, a good practice that applies to games, applies to websites, applies to any sort of software development, applies way outside software development. Yeah, all of this data was publicly available within the game. I just brought it into a dashboard of my own design. So hopefully that helps paint a picture of kind of and hopefully informs. Maybe some staff of the game will actually see this video and try to address some of these drop off points and improve engagement with the players. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching.